How do you introduce a new feather on the block? Hi, I'm Kaylin, the author of The Parrot Bond. Please be sure to get your copy on Amazon.com so that you can learn even more about not only how to introduce your new feather to your flock, but everything that you need to provide a quality and blissful, really blissful life for you and your new feather. This is Tesla. Tesla is the new feather on my block, and Tesla is a Cape Parrot. Like most Cape Parrots so far, Tesla is phenomenal. On our car drive home when we picked Tesla up, Tesla was really already bonding with me, trying to feed me, letting me pet him, and hanging out on my shoulder and everything. It took Tesla a few minutes to warm up, but by the time we'd been in the car for an hour, he was acting as if we had already bonded and been best of friends for 10 years. Now, because Tesla is the new feather on the block, even though Tesla is young, he's being quarantined. How do I know Tesla's young? Because if you have been around birds, if you're acquiring a new bird and you've seen other parrots, then you probably have figured out or been told that it's really hard to tell a parrot's age. There's like a young parrot, and then there's everything after, adulthood. Young adult and super old all kind of look the same, except young, and babies. So I can tell that Tesla is young because Tesla still has some of the salmon cap, chapeau, it looks like a French cap to me, on his head. You can see right there, but it's fading. Also, Tesla doesn't have orange on his wings here, on his shoulders, and he doesn't have an orange stripe on his socks, so to speak, like right at the ankle, right there on his feet. So I can tell that while he is not a baby, he is a juvenile. Actually, I also noticed today that his lower mandible, or his lower beak, is actually wide. It's still kind of wide. So that the upper mandible is a little more narrow. Their beaks are sort of narrow and they hook over. And when they're young, their lower beak is like a cup so that they can catch the food. When their moms feed them, or their dads, they feed them from above, and they kind of feed them on their upper mandible, and it kind of comes down and they kind of catch it in the sides of their mouth. It's sort of hard to see. It's sort of amazing. Actually, it's impossible to see when they're in a nesting box, but that's why they'll have a larger lower mandible. And so he still has some of that. So I definitely see those signs. Nevertheless, he's being quarantined. Why? Because one of the first things I'm going to do is get a little sample. I believe it has to be a blood sample for a beak and feather test. And I will send that off to make sure that he does not have beak and feather. So he's being quarantined so that I can make sure that Tesla is nice and healthy and doesn't have anything that he's going to give to the rest of my flock. We want to keep a happy, healthy flock. While in quarantine, I'm also working on his diet. I was told that Tesla was fed fresh vegetables and pellets, and it sounded really good, and nuts and all this other stuff. And yet, I can't imagine what he was fed, because he tasted one pellet and dropped it and hasn't gone back to the pellet dish. It's like, what? No, I'm just going to walk away from this. He looked at the nuts and was like very curious and definitely had some nuts, which is good, but didn't quite seem to know how to eat them. He had to figure it out. And fresh what? Green vegetables? Didn't even bother sniffing them out, kind of thing. He just didn't even go there. So I have to work on his diet. What I will do is I will make sure that he's eating, because when I felt Tesla's breastbone right there on his chest, it feels a little too pronounced to me, and that tells me that he's a little thin. Now, when parrots are weaning, and he could be at the end of a weaning stage, they can lose about 10% of their weight, and that's totally normal and natural. However, when you bring a parrot home, you want them to be nice and healthy, and so I want to make sure that Tesla's eating. So, under quarantine, he'll have a special eye kept on him, and we will work on his diet. I, of course, want him to be able to really live with our other Cape parrots. And eventually he will live with the Cape parrots. We'll slowly introduce him. And that means that we'll be around as they get to meet each other in a nice neutral place so that we're not on anyone's territory. That means it won't be in anyone's cage. It'll be somewhere that's neutral ground where they can come and kind of hang out with each other and get to know each other. And then as that gets better and better, we'll be able to see about putting them in a new cage together. Once a territory is marked, so to speak, once a cage belongs to a parrot or a pair of parrots, adding a new parrot is never, I've never seen that work. Instead, when I take whoever I'm putting in a cage and put them in a new cage, then they all come in as a neutral thing. Everybody sort of moves in together and you have a lot more peace and harmony kind of thing. So, generally speaking, when you do put parrots together, you really want to watch and make sure that they're going to do okay. Generally speaking, if they are the same species, you're not going to have any problems with them getting along, but you still do need to introduce them slowly. I very rarely put birds of different species together in the same cage because that doesn't usually work. So Tesla is off to a good start. When I was getting Tesla, I looked at Tesla's nares to make sure they looked clean. I looked at Tesla's eyes to make sure that there's like nothing goopy, kind of like when you have a cold and you're sort of runny everywhere. I'm making sure there's no runniness everywhere. Kind of look in his mouth as best you can. They do have beaks, it's not easy to do. Make sure that everything looks good there. Kind of make sure that the wings are gonna flap, good flapping. Make sure his feet look good and clean. Make sure he has 4 toes on each foot. And kind of make sure that his bottom looks clean. So those are the signs that tell me that Tesla's not in bad shape at all. His feathers are a little dark, and so I think we're gonna also prescribe some fresh air, sunshine, and baths. And the baths can just start with some light misting or just time in the bathroom while I'm taking a shower, because just the humidity and the vapor from the shower are enough to start to get their feathers wet. Now, I don't know if you knew this or not, but this is like such a cool thing when I learned about it. The sun disinfects their feathers so that they don't get little creepy crawly microscopic bugs and stuff. So, some outdoor time or some sunshine for your parrot is a really, really beneficial thing. Now, don't forget, unfortunately, that doesn't mean that their cage can be in front of a window where they get sunlight, because generally speaking, unless your window is not UV and UV blocking, that's not going to work. You want that UV and UV light, which we usually try to block because it's not as good for us to get on our skin all day long, and it fades our furniture, that kind of thing. So our windows tend to protect us from that. Hi, sweetie. Are you going to show them how friendly you are? And so that means you need some time where he's actually getting some golden rays touching his feathers. What else? He has just been super awesome and super friendly. So please be sure that you like and subscribe so that you can watch his continued adventures. He's doing Fabu, and I'm so excited to have a new mad scientist, Tesla, in my home. Until next time.